So when we talk about these storage classes, we are talking about how can you optimize the cost for the data which you are storing on S3, right? So S3 provides you various storage classes which can help you do the needful. So based on the frequency at which you are accessing your data, frequency at which you are accessing your data, or based upon the amount of data you are accessing, the size of the data, and frequency which is allowed. Okay, so like, do you want the data to be available immediately, or do you want it to be available in next 3-4 hours? So the categorization, how it has done is, so first is your standard storage class, then we have something which is called standard IA, then we have intelligent tiering, then we have another class which is one zone IA, then we have instant archive, glacier, flexible archive, we have glacier, deep archive. We also have reduced redundancy storage, which is kind of deprecated. It is a legacy thing which we don't use it nowadays. We generally use one zone IA. So what is a standard class? Like, you are accessing the data day-to-day basis. So what is happening? You are uploading the documents to your S3 bucket. People are making get requests, put requests, update requests, delete requests on a day-to-day basis. So we'll go with a standard class. Okay. So here you have to pay a amount for the storage. The data is 99.99% available, as in like whenever you will make a request for it, there are only 0.01% chances that your data may not be available, right? So then throughout the year, right? Then coming to durability, it has 11 nines of durability. That makes it 99.999967 much percent of durability. Okay, this much durable your data is going to be. So durability means like over a period of time, how much you can expect a data loss. So you can say like in 1 year this much percentage your data could be lost, right? So it is a very low amount. They have the SLA agreements which says like there is a uptime, like your service should be uptime and all. So it is highly durable, and all of these storage classes, they provide this much of durability, like it is same for all. Okay, so I'll just say it is same for all. Then number of zones, number of copies, okay, it will keep for your data. So for every class, it will maintain a minimum 3 copies, but only for one zone IA, it will only have 1 copy for your data, right? It would be stored only in one availability zone, right? For others, it would have greater than or equal to 3 copies. So that means like so what does it mean? Like the chances of losing the data over here are greater than compared to the other classes. Still, as I said, they have a service level agreement. So the chances of losing your data is really less, even in one zone IA. So here you can say it is 99.5% available. For standard IA, it is 99.9% available, just a little change. Intelligent tiering again 99.9% available. Glacier Instant Archive again 99.9% available. And for Flexible Archive and Deep Archive, it is again 99.99%. Coming to day-to-day basis, so here this offers, like when we talk about the latency, this is like millisecond latency. Okay, So when you are asking for the data, you will get it at the span of a millisecond. This also has like millisecond latency. This also millisecond latency, millisecond latency, millisecond latency. This is like minutes to hours, and this is like several hours it may take to get your data out. So one zone IA, since we are making just in one availability zone, and if the availability zone fails, your data could be lost. So we use it for data which can easily be recreated, which can easily be recreated. Okay. Glacier, now when we talk about this standard IA, so here number of days, minimum days data needs to be stored, okay, on this particular class, right? So minimum number of days the data needs to be stored on this class. So if you have stored the data in standard class, you cannot immediately move it to the other class, okay, like by a lifecycle rule configurations. So minimum it would be lying there in 30 minimum days, okay. So when we talk about Glacier Deep Archive, it is like 180 days. For flexible, it is 90. Again, for this also it is 90. And for the others, it is like 30 days. If you have stored your data in your intelligent tiering, it would be lying there for 30 days, and then you can move your data to the other storage classes. Going into the depth of every class, so we have standard, which is for day-to-day basis, standard infrequent access. Infrequent means which is not accessed frequently, right? So it is for data not accessed frequently. So what does it mean? Like if I am accessing my data like like once in a month or something like that, right? So that data would be there in your standard IA, right? Intelligent tiering. Here, if I'm not sure about access requirements, if I'm not sure about how much I'm going to access my data, about how much I'm going to access my data. Okay, and I want this storage class to basically figure out and move the data accordingly to the respective class. I would access my data. So for example, this is very intelligent class, okay? So if I dump my data in my intelligent tiering, it will figure out, it will basically maintain three different tiers, like your frequently accessed, infrequent access, and your what do we say, like flexible archive. In that way it will store it. So when your data is stored in your intelligent tiering, it will store some data in your frequent, some in your infrequent, and some in your archive. So when the data is, the data which is frequently getting used, it will move that to your standard access, right? If the data is less frequently used, it will not move it to one zone I. So basically, if we see like as we go down the hierarchy, what is going to happen? Your cost is going to reduce, right? So standard is costlier than IA, than one zone IA, than Glacier Instant Archive, Glacier Flexible, and Glacier Deep Archive is the cheapest storage available, right? But the data, the time to retrieve the data, right? So here you can see it is millisecond latency. It is millisecond latency. It takes minimum minutes to hours to retrieve your data, and here it will take several hours to retrieve your data. So if I'm not sure about how much I would be accessing my data, but I want it to be cost optimized, so then I can set it on the intelligent tiering. It will basically monitor your usage, and based on it, it will move the data to your classes. So it can move it to your standard, it can move it to your standard IA, or it will move it to your Glacier Instant Archive, right? And then basically based on this, it will automatically move, and you have to pay for the data as per their storage class. So when you talk about the cost, here, standard IA, you have to pay for how much you are using and how much time you are using. So intelligent tiering, you have to pay for minimum 30 days. If you have saved your data in your intelligent tiering and you are not using it for 30 days, right? But still you have to pay for it. And the minimum storage size in your intelligent tiering is 128 KB. That means like if you are storing the data which is lesser than 128 KB, it will move it to your frequent access, to your standard. You would be charged as per your standard rates. Okay, it is meant for at least the object sizes which are greater than 128 KB. One zone IA, again the size limit is 128 KB. So minimum object size which is required is 128 KB. For flexible archive it is 40 KB, for glacier deep archive it is 40 KB, and for this it is again 128 KB. Instant archive. So it provides you millisecond latency, but how do we compare it with standard and other classes? So this is also providing millisecond latency, standard is also providing millisecond latency, but it is used for less frequent access. Like if you are you are accessing the data once in 90 days, like for that, then you can move it to instant archive. Now a question may arrive, why don't I move it to my instant archive even if I'm accessing it daily? It is very cheap over here, right? But the point is you don't only pay for the storage class. So if it is causing you like some cents and it is causing you 10% lesser cents, but what is going to happen? You also pay for the retrieval cost. So for intelligent tiering, you have to pay for it. Okay. But for other layers, you have to pay per GB. It may cost you even more than your standard access. Flexible archive, it will give you minutes to hours of latency. Deep archive, it is meant for like the data which you would be accessing like once in 180 days. And the retrieval time is several hours, like you can expect like one day it may take to retrieve your data alone. So when while I'm uploading an object, like if I'm adding a file, I'm choosing one object. When I'm choosing my object, you can go to the properties and you can see the storage classes. By default, it will use your standard storage class. But you can tell it like if you want to your object to be stored in your intelligent tiering, one zone IA or glacier, whichever suits you as per your requirement. Like if I feel this data is going to be used very frequently, I may be, making a lot of GET requests for it and I want it really fast. I can move it to my standard tier. There is some data which I can easily recreate it. For example, I have images, creating the thumbnail images and storing it over here out of the main image. So those thumbnail images, they can be recreated and it would be stored in just one availability zone. So even if I lose the data, I can easily recreate it. Here you can choose your storage classes over here. Reduced redundancy, it is a legacy class. It was used before they introduced one zone IA. It is like not recommended. Question in exam may come, like I have a requirement where I access data like once in a month, but I want it to be cost optimized. And also I don't want data to be lost. I want availability to be really high. You will not think of one zone IA. So here you have your storage class which has been defined, right? So whenever what you can also do is like for while we are uploading the objects, you can define the storage class for the particular object. Select all and you can do actions and you can update or edit the storage class. Like here I've selected it to be one zone IA, but you can change it later on to any class you want. So you can change it to standard or whatever and it will be changing it. Then if you go to the management, we have something which is called life cycle rules. So if you look at this, I have images which I need every day, right? I have images which I need every day. So images you need every day, that means it has to be in standard class, right? It has to be in a standard storage. Then I have thumbnails which I access, which I can recreate, and you can afford like millisecond latency, right? So for those things you can have like you can use your one zone IA. Then they are saying like standard one zone IA has a limit, like if you are storing the data in your one zone IA, it has to remain there for 30 days. Okay, you cannot move it. So here I'm storing it for 30 days, after which it would be accessed once in a month. So for 30 days, it is good. Like if I store my data in my standard class. But thereafter, what I can do is like after 30 days, I can push my data to some other storage class, right? So basically what is going to happen for first 30 days, it would be more frequent and then it would be like once in a month or so. So after that, I can move it to my standard IA. And after 90 days, images get stale. You have to delete them from the system, right? So these would be expired. So after 30 days, we can move it to standard IA. And after 90 days, what is happening? Like they are getting stale. You want them to be deleted. If you look at this thing, thumbnails, they are saying like it is something which can be recreated easily and after 90 days they can also be deleted. If all this I have to manage it myself, right? Moving the data from one storage class to another, it would be hectic, isn't it? I have to create some jobs which should do it and all these things. So basically what I can do is S3 provides me a service for it, right? So here in the management, you can create a life cycle rule and you can say it like test. Okay, I'm just giving a name for it. Filter type, like do you want to apply to all objects or do you want to limit them? Like I want to say like all those which are lying in my images. Like first I'm creating a rule for images, those in my images. Okay, object size, like minimum object size you want to specify like only those which are greater than 128 KB you want to move them or so, you can specify it over here. Life cycle rule action, non-current versions of the objects I would like to move, okay, to, so if it is not a current version, right, it has been like for there for 30 days, right? So what do you want? You wanted to move it to standard IA, right? So here after 30 days, I wanted to be moving to your standard IA. And after 90 days, I wanted to be moved to deleted. So after 90 days, so here after 90 days, you would want them to be deleted, right? So here you can see it has added a life cycle rule. It says like all 30 days objects would be moving to standard IA and after 90 days they are permanently deleted. So this is one rule I have added. I can create another life cycle rule which says this is test 2 which says all those which are lying in the thumbnail folder which are like they are lying in your one zone IA, right? So basically they are lying in your one zone IA. So after 90 days, what you would want? After 90 days, you would want them to be deleted. And like move current versions, okay? Like if it is like a, like if it is, you have by mistake added anything inside your thumbnail, okay? To be a standard storage, you want it to be moved even to your one zone IA. After 30 days, it will automatically move it. If by mistake, like any thumbnail object you created in your, if by default, see, ideally thumbnails you want it to be in your one zone IA. So when you are uploading an object, you can specify it to be one zone IA. But by mistake, if I upload it into the standard, so I'm just adding a new rule which says like after 30 days, if it is lying in your standard, move it to one zone IA, and after 90 days, just delete it. Does this make sense? And permanently delete after 90 days. So I'll create a rule. So with this rule, what is going to happen? So this thing has been achieved. So what is your lifecycle configuration? It helps me manage the things, right? So when I have to move the objects between the storage classes, I can use this tool to basically manage it for me. So lifecycle rules are used for transitioning the objects between the storage classes, right? So these are the various storage classes. Now if you look at the chart, this chart has been taken from your Amazon S3. Okay, website, Amazon website. You have your standard. Let's recall. So you have standard, then you have your standard IA, then you have your one zone IA, then you have your intelligent tiering, right? After standard IA, we have your intelligent tiering. Then you have your one zone IA. After this, we have glacier instant archive, right? Then you have your glacier flexible archive, and then you have your glacier deep archive. 7 classes. Reduced redundancy storage, we are not talking about it because it is kind of deprecated. So what they are saying is from standard to standard IA, you can do it. From standard to one intelligent tiering, you can configure a rule to move it from there to there. From standard to one zone IA, you can move it. Using your lifecycle configuration, you can tell like after some time you want your object to be moved from standard to glacier flexible archive, and after some time you want it to be moved to glacier deep archive. This you can do it, right? from standard 1 IA, okay, so then this you can do it. Another thing what you can do is, you can say from standard 1 IA, okay, IA to intelligent tiering you can do, from standard IA to one zone IA you can do, from standard IA to this you can do, from this to this you can do, and from this to this you can do, right? So this all we can do. Okay, so in your life cycle configuration, when you are defining the rules for transition, you can do it. From intelligent tiering, you can move from here to here. You can move it from here to here. You can move it to from here to here, and you can move it from here to here. From one zone IA, you can move it to your Glacier Flexible Archive to your Glacier Deep Archive. Okay, but from your one zone IA, you cannot move it to your Glacier Instant Archive. So this chart goes like this. From standard to standard IA, you can move all down the hierarchy. Just from one zone IA, you cannot move it to instant retrieval. When you have to go up the hierarchy, standard IA to standard you cannot do. Intelligent tiering to standard IA you cannot do. One zone IA to intelligent tiering you cannot do. Right? So these are the some rules underlying it. Right? So this talks about the rules. Storage class to the standard storage class, you cannot transition any storage class to the standard storage class. Any storage class, see basically what is happening, from any storage class to standard storage class you are not doing. Any storage class to reduce, this is not there because anyhow we are not covering this. The S3 intelligent tiering class to the standard IA storage class you cannot do, right? You cannot generally go up the hierarchy. We go back to the UI. Here you can see while we are configuring your lifecycle rules, if you have noted, we can specify like here move current versions of objects between storage classes. So you're specifying like I want, whenever the object is uploaded to my S3 bucket, it should be moved by default to your standard IA. Okay, by default the storage class is standard only, but you want like, whenever the object is stored in my S3 bucket, it should be moved to your standard IA. So here you can specify like moving current versions of the objects, right? Non-current versions, like after the object is lying there for 30 days or 90 days, move it to you want that transition to happen. Expire current version of objects, we have a object which you uploaded like company.png and you want like after 30 days, they should be deleted. Deleted in the sense soft to delete. So they are asking you can specify it over here like after 90 days or after 30 days you expire my current version. So S3 will add a delete marker. If you want to permanently delete, as in you want to do hard delete. Delete expired object delete markers. So what is about it? It is saying like for example, there are some delete markers which are lying in your bucket. Okay. And you want to delete those delete markers. Okay. So that is what you can do. Okay. Or basically when you were doing multi-part upload, to a S3 bucket, we talked about I think multi-part upload. So whenever you are uploading a object right to a bucket, the maximum object size is allowed is 5 TB, 5 terabytes. But whenever the object is greater than 5 GB, you cannot do it using a one put request, right? So you have to use multi-part upload. So multi-part upload, it will actually upload the chunks of your data, right? One by one. So if you have not received a particular chunk, if part of it failed, it can again be only that part needs to be uploaded again, right? So if you have some incomplete multi-part uploads, so you want to check like after 30 days, if you still have any multi-part upload chunk which is lying there, which was not a complete download, you want to delete them. So for that, you can go with this. So delete expired object delete markers or incomplete multi-part uploads, you can specify it over here, right? So these are some of the rules you can configure while you are creating your lifecycle rule actions. Inside your S3 bucket, okay, this is your S3 bucket, you go to metrics, you have something which is called storage class analysis. What is it going to do? It will do a analysis on your storage class, okay? And what is it going to tell you? Like basically, if your object, it does an analysis on your standard class and it will tell you those objects which can be moved to your standard IA. Okay, so here you can create an analytics configuration and you can specify like what all objects you want to run it on. So apply to all objects in the bucket or you want only the particular objects with a particular prefix, with a particular prefix, as in like you have dumped your objects with a file name as like slash with your key name as slash video slash. So only for videos you want to run it across, and you want to export your CSV, you can save it in any bucket, either in this account or the other account, right? So create configuration, you can specify the configuration name, right? So here the storage class analysis, you are telling it like it will give you analytics, it will give you analysis, it will do analysis, and it will give you it in the CSV format. It may take up to 24 hours. It will give you in the CSV format like if there are any objects which can be moved from standard to standard IA based upon the object sizes you have in your bucket, based upon the frequency, based upon the other factors which are there in your bucket, like how frequent your requests are coming, how much how much frequent these requests are, and all these things. Then we have another thing which is your replication. So storage class analytics analysis, it will not do analysis on your deep archive or other classes. Okay, it does it on standard class, and it will tell you like what all data can be moved to your standard IA. If you come back to your management, okay, we have something which is called replication rules. Here we are creating a replication rule, for example, like this is a test. Now what is this replication rule? Replication rule talks about like I have data in one bucket. So what is happening, like I have my account over here, okay, I have my S3 bucket over here, and I want the data to be replicated either in the same region. Okay, region as in like this is your North Virginia region, right? So you created your bucket in your North Virginia region. You have another bucket also lying in your North Virginia region. So you want like whenever you are actually uploading your data to this file, to this bucket, it should also be uploaded on the other bucket. Okay, so you want maybe 2 copies of your data. Why you may want it? Basically just to have like maybe it is part of your compliance, like company compliance, like you should have 2 copies of your data lying in 2 different buckets. Okay, or basically what may happen, like I'll give you another scenario, like for example I have another bucket. Okay, now this is like a microservice application per se. So I have a service A, okay, which is writing logs to this bucket. I have service B which is writing logs to this bucket, right? At the end of the day, I want all the logs to be aggregated, right, and stored in one bucket. And on this bucket, I am doing my analysis. Okay, I'm running my analytics on this bucket. So in that case, you may prefer using your single region replication. Single region replication is in, this process is called single region replication. Single region replication meaning like you are doing a replication of your data within the same region, right? Similarly, we have other thing which is called your, now this thing, right, can be either in the same account or it could be like you want to do it in the other account. So then this was about single region replication. Then we have something like a cross region replication. So what is cross region replication? So for example, like this is your AWS account. In this, I have a region over here, which is your North Virginia. Okay. I have another region over here, which is my Mumbai region. Mumbai region. So what is happening? Like from US East 1 to Mumbai, I have a bucket lying over here. I have a bucket lying over here. Right? So all my data is getting stored over here. There are US people who are mostly uploading data to my bucket. Right? And there are people from India also who are uploading data to my bucket. Right? So in this case, what is happening? US people can upload data to this bucket. Mumbai people can upload data to this bucket, right? And then you can enable your cross-region replication. Understood? So basically cross region replication meaning you would be, both the buckets will have data from both the regions and it would be done asynchronously. And it would be doing it asynchronously. It would be syncing the data between the two buckets. Does this make sense? So what is going to be the benefit of it? So first of all, like when people are uploading the data to different buckets, they are uploading it to a bucket which is nearer to them. So what is happening? It reduces your latency. It could be like your company compliance, like you have to maintain the data in both the buckets. All the data should be available in both the buckets. Because when North Virginia people, they are trying to fetch the data, right? They should be even able to see this data, right? Yes, and they want to have two different buckets to reduce the latency. So this is one use case where you may enable your cross-region replication. So this is called cross-region replication. Cross-region replication means you are actually making different copies of your data in different regions, right? So you have your Mumbai region and you have your North Virginia region. You have two different copies of your data in both the regions, and then you want your data to be replicated to the across the regions, right? So this is just one use case. You may have other use cases as well, right? It could be not because of this, like you don't. So basically what happens now, a question may come, if we are replicating the data, will it come into an endless loop? No, it will not. Okay, any replicated data, it will not replicate it again to the other bucket, right? So these are some of the reasons why you may want to use cross-region replication, right? Or it could be company compliance, like they want the copy of the data to be stored in, Europe and, USA. So they want two copies to be stored in two different regions, right? So then also you may go with your cross-region replication. Okay, so to enable the replication, you can say like you are creating a replication rule name, and you can specify like whether you want to replicate all the objects or only in a particular bucket, like, or you can specify a prefix for it and where do you want to upload it, right? So either you want it in the same account or in a different account. If you are uploading, so it goes like this. So if suppose this is, like for example here, this is in my account, okay? Like you can also do it cross account, okay? So here, let me just remove it, okay? So for example, now let's take a use case wherein I have two accounts, okay? So this is like account one, okay? And this is your different AWS account altogether. You have an S3 bucket over here. You have an S3 bucket over here. Both are lying in the same region. So this is also in North Virginia and this is also in North Virginia, right? And you want the data to be transferred over here, to be replicated over here, right? Now think about it for a moment. So what I have done in this account, I have enabled my replication. I enabled my replication. Okay. So in this account, I enabled my replication. So what is happening whenever someone is uploading a document over here, it will be actually replicated over there, right? Now, whenever the data is getting replicated, okay, so here the data would also be moving to your destination region, right? So when the data is going to be stored over here, it is going to be moving from here to here. This S3 bucket should allow the data, the put request to be made from this bucket, isn't it? In this account, right? So you have to provide permissions on this bucket to allow you have to provide a policy which allows the data to be written from this bucket in that account. Does this make sense? So if you go back, it is saying you can specify a bucket in the other region and you can specify your account ID and the bucket name, right? And you can change the, if you want your ownership for the object to be changed over here. When it is saving it over here, you want the owner to be someone else. That also you can do. Okay. Now, to copy it, you would have to specify the IAM role, right? So you can create a new role, or you have to grant permissions for this to be able to write to this bucket. Okay. And the destination storage class. Like, do you want, like here by default they were stored in your standard class. Do you want them to be stored in the same standard class, or do you want it to be stored in some other class? We have something like RTC, which says like if you enable it right while replication, there is a contract which says like it will try to complete your whole replication within 15 minutes, even if you have loads of data, right? So within 15 minutes your data would be replicated. So it would be doing it through optimized speed networks if you enable this RTC, but you have to pay for it. Okay, so if you enable the RTC, it will basically the transfer which is happening, right? So it will do it on a very high speed networks, optimized networks, and you have to pay for it. Replication metrics and notification, like do you want to enable your CloudWatch metrics for it? Okay, to monitor the progress of your replication and all that. Delete marker replication. Now think about it. I have few objects lying in this bucket, okay, which were deleted. Okay, and there is one rule which says like whenever we are actually doing the replication, right? For your replication to be done, your versioning should be enabled. Okay, on both your source and your destination bucket. So whenever you are trying to do replication, versioning should be enabled on this bucket and this bucket. So when you will delete an object in this bucket, right, it will create a delete marker because versioning has been enabled, right? So once the versioning has been enabled, it will add a delete marker. If you do not understand, if you're not able to relate to this lecture, you can go and watch my first and second day video. So whenever you have versioning enabled, I think it is a second day video which talks about versioning and MFA delete. So like here when you are actually deleting an object, right? So it will add a delete marker. So once it will add a delete marker, do you want also this delete marker to be replicated? Okay, do you want this delete marker also to be replicated to this bucket? Okay, if you want it, you can do delete marker replication. Like you want also your delete markers to be replicated. Since versioning would be enabled, then what is going to happen? That delete marker would signify like the object has been deleted. Okay. So here I have a delete marker. If you basically do delete marker replication, even this delete marker will move over here. And once the delete marker is added, you know that means that your object would be termed as deleted, right? Another thing is like here there is one more thing. Okay, so if you are deleting an object permanently, okay, how do you delete an object permanently? Deleting an object permanently means you are also deleting the delete marker, right? So if I actually do like I select a particular version, I select a particular version, not delete a delete marker. So basically if I select a particular version and I say like permanently delete, so it will basically permanently delete it, again covered in the lecture 2 video, right? And I say permanently delete, that will permanently delete the object. Now, though that change won't be basically replicated to this bucket. Why? Because we don't want like, what if someone goes and, like just deletes all the object in this bucket. You don't want all the objects in this bucket to be deleted as well. It could be like something like a spam or something, some hack, right? So if you are deleting an object permanently over here, by default, they won't be deleted over here, right? So all these configurations can be done. So this is about your replication. In case you people have any doubts, you can leave your comments below the video. As a comment in the video. Let's do a demo on this. So I'll move over here and I can go to this bucket and I will say management. And here I can specify a replication rule. I think we already did it, right? So once you will do it, you can specify the bucket name, bucket whether you want it inside this region, inside this account or outside the account, right? And you can specify if you choose a bucket, it would be in a different region, it would be like a cross region replication. If you do it within this region, it would be a single region replication. You need to enable bucket versioning for both your source and your destination. So in the management, we have gone through lifecycle rules and replication rules. Coming to the next part, which is requester pay. Now what is happening if you see, whenever I'm uploading an object on this source bucket, I have enabled, for example, your cross region replication, right? In this case, I have enabled this is single region replication, right? Both are going to your North Virginia only, right? So it is your single region replication, but whenever it is a different account, right? This is account 1 and this is account 2. So both are different accounts. So basically, if you have granted perms to your account 1 to be able to upload your objects into your account 2, they are doing it. But what if the amount of data which they are inserting into your, your S3 bucket is very high, right? So you can choose, basically what you are doing is you are replicating the data to their bucket, but do you want to pay for this replication? Do you want, like, when the data is going from your bucket to their bucket, do you want to pay for it or do you want them to pay for it? You understand? Like, for example, you are generating some reports and the client wants the reports, right? So they are actually asking for the reports and you are replicating the data to their bucket, right? So who should pay for it? The client should pay for it if you want that. So there is an option, you can enable your requester pay. Okay, what you can do is you can say requester pay. So when you enable that, what is going to happen? Like, if this replication has been enabled and they are taking up some reports, they are downloading some reports and all to their own S3 bucket, they have enabled the replication for it. So you would be paying for the storage, like the data which you are storing, right? Storage cost would be borne by you, right? Would be borne by you, right? But then would be borne by you. But then, for the data transfer, who will pay? The client would pay. Okay, so data transfer, you can tell like your client should pay for it, right? Data transfer charges to be paid by the requester who is requesting for this data. Does this make sense? This is what is your requester pay, right? So you can enable it on your S3 bucket. Okay, you can say like whenever the data is leaving this, whenever this person is making a request to your S3 bucket, it could be like also like if someone is making a request, like for example, you have stored your data in your S3 bucket and they are making a request for your data. So whenever they will make a request for your data, what are they going to do? They will in the header specify AXMZ, they are going to pass in this header AMZ requester pay, and when they have this header, your S3 bucket will know, okay, for this transfer charge we have to bill this account. Okay, and the person who's making a request should have a AWS authenticated account, then only AWS can charge them, right? So the person who is authenticated user, if he is making a request for your bucket and he has this XAMZ requester pay in their header, that means your S3 bucket knows, your account knows that they have to be charged for this transfer. Okay, you would only be paying for that for the storage cost. If they don't have that XMZ requester pay in their header, then you would be paying the cost for it. But in this case, when the replication has been enabled, right, you are replicating the data, requester pay cannot be enabled. Okay, so here only when they are making a request for the data and you are giving back them the data, right, and they have in it, even if they are requesting the data without this XAMZ requester pay, they won't be paying for it. Only if they see, there are two things. Okay, so first thing is like they are making a request. Okay, the client is making a request for your data, and second thing is they have this header. XANZ requester pay as part of their request. So that means they are making a request. So your S3 would know, your service would know that they would be paying for it. Okay. Then, and you would have enabled your requester pay, right? Then only, and requester pay is enabled. So if all these things are happening, then only they would be charged for it. But in the case of replication, when you are doing replication, right, your requester pay cannot be enabled. Requester pay won't be working. So you have to pay for it. If it is like a cross-region replication you are doing, you have to bone the charges for it. Right? The next topic is we are going to talk about how you can improve the performance of your S3 bucket. Okay, how can you optimize your cost? Okay, so the next topic is how can you optimize the cost for S3 bucket, right? How can you optimize the cost for S3 bucket, right? S3 storage, you can say, like how can you optimize the cost for S3 storage? So what operations are you doing on your S3 storage? You are basically doing a put operation, you are doing a read operation. These are the two major operations which you are doing, right? Either you are posting the data to the S3 or you are reading the data, writing or reading the data. So how can we improve the performance when you are doing a put request? Like when you are writing to S3, how can you improve the performance? So first thing which we studied was you can do something which is called your multi-part upload. Multi-part upload meaning what? Like whenever, so here you can do something like multi-part upload. So multi-part upload meaning what? Like if you have a data which is greater than like 100 MB, or or basically when we talk about like generally which is greater than 100 MB, you should use multi-part upload. But when you are using a put request, it limits you to upload a data maximum of 5 GB, right? So here it says like when you are using multi-part upload, it will improve your performance. Why? Because you are uploading it in parts. And if you lose a part, you just have to upload that part again. You don't have to upload whole of the thing again. Okay. So this is one benefit, like you can improve your writes, right? What could be the other way you can improve your writes to your S3 bucket? Then what are the ways you can improve your reads to your S3 bucket? These are the things which we would be seeing now, right? So here when you have to improve the reads for your S3 bucket, there are few options, like you can use range fetch, you can use S3 select, okay, you can use CloudFront. CloudFront is something like using edge locations, which we'll talk about later in detail. So for put requests, okay, so these are the topics which we are going to cover now. Here when you have to do put, there is also one more way, like how you can improve your performance. Now here there comes the first topic for the day, that is your transfer acceleration, right? So if I want to improve my performance, write operation, you see like we can do multi-part upload. The other thing what we can do is you can use something which is called your transfer acceleration. Transfer acceleration. Right? So you can use transfer acceleration or you can also use your read, right? So when we talk about this transfer acceleration, let's study about what is transfer acceleration. So we'll go over them one by one now. So transfer acceleration means what? So suppose I have my S3 bucket over here. Okay, it is lying in my North Virginia region. Okay, but my client, who he is from Mumbai, he wants to upload the data to my S3 bucket, right? So what I can do is I can configure a endpoint, Okay, it has various edge locations. Okay, edge locations as in like some speed up, some servers which are nearer to the client locations, which are used for caching and all. Okay, so what it will do, it can, like when we enable the transfer acceleration, if a request is coming from Mumbai to upload the data, it will basically it will upload the data to the location which is closest to the client. Okay, so in the Mumbai server, it will upload the data. Okay, so from the internet, you are coming, request is going to your S3 bucket and you are uploading the data to your this S3 bucket. Then what happens on your private network? Okay, on your S3 network, on your AWS network, in your AWS network, it will basically asynchronously move the data to your this bucket, North Virginia bucket, right? So this cloud, it is called your edge location, okay, which is used mostly for caching of the data, right? So basically what is happening to the location which is nearer to your client, it is using one of the edge location nearer to the client and it is caching your data over here, and asynchronously the data would be moved to your buckets. So there are two advantages associated with it. Here the latency has been reduced. Now basically instead of client having to upload the data over here, right, what is going to happen if the client has to upload the data over here, it would be causing lot of latency issues, right? So they are from Mumbai to North Virginia. If you go to cloudping.info, I showed you in the first video, it takes a lot of time to basically upload, right? It is going to be a lot of latency. Instead, if it is actually doing it to the location which is closest to him, it would be relatively very fast, right? So this is one thing what is happening. So it is actually doing it really fast. The another thing is, like here it is using your internet speed, right, to upload the data, right? It is going on your public internet, right? The request is coming from your public internet, right? But here it is using AWS optimized network, which is really fast to basically upload the data asynchronously from this bucket to this bucket, right? So you don't have to, like worry about the network issue. Does this make sense? So in these cases, this is called transfer acceleration. So your transfers to your S3 are basically accelerated and you gain a lot of performance over here, right? So what is this? This is called transfer acceleration. Transfer acceleration as in like your uploads to your S3 are then really going to be fast. Let us see how do you do that. So I'll go to properties. Here I will say edit and I will say enable. So here you will get this accelerated endpoint. So anyone who would be doing a put to this endpoint, it would be using the cache locations and edge locations nearby and you have to pay for it, right? So it is like you have to pay for the additional fee for this optimization, right? So if you want lesser latency and you are ready to pay a little extra, this transfer acceleration is going to help you out, right? So whoever is going to make a upload to this endpoint, it would be using this speed optimization, and all those who would be doing a general put to the bucket, it would be done without transfer acceleration. Okay. So like this, you can speed up your writes. And it is not like I'll enable it and immediately you will see the results. It takes 1 or 2 hours to basically see the result, right? Then coming to the other optimizations which we talked about. So this was about your transfer acceleration. Then we are talking about another thing which is your range fetch. Range fetch. So what is range fetch? Range fetch is something like I have my S3 bucket over here, right? I have my S3 bucket over here. I have my S3 bucket over here. Okay. And the data which is lying over here, right? It is like I have 5 terabytes of data, 5 terabytes of objects, 5 TB objects lying over here. Okay. So you have a lot of 5 terabyte objects lying over here. But whenever the client is making a request, right, he doesn't want the whole object to be returned back to him. He just wants a clip of the video. You understand? So he just wants a clip of the video. He doesn't want the whole video to be downloaded. So in that case, you can use your range fetch. Okay, so using range fetch, you can in the header, you can specify content fetch and you can specify the number of bytes you want it to download for you. Okay, so in the header, you can specify like content fetch and the amount of data you want, like how much bytes you want it to, like 1098 bytes. Okay, so only this much bytes of data would be returned back. Does this make sense? So it is going to improve your performance. Okay. So instead of downloading the whole objects, you want only, there is also something like with this, you can also specify like one more header is there. So here you can say content range. Oh, it is content range and it is part number. You can also specify the part number. Like what happens, the object, you can think of it is divided into various parts, like small parts. And you can specify I want part number 1, part number 2. Okay, it is not content fetch, it is content range. Okay. So this is called range fetch. Right? So then coming to the next part. Here then we have another thing which is called S3 select. S3 select. How is S3 select going to help you? So S3 select is like I have a bucket over here. Okay. And in this I have a Excel's or CSV files saved over here. Okay, and in my CSV file I have data for my company employees. Okay, I have data for my company employees and these employees data is like having lot of information about the employees, lot of columns for the employees it has. Like it has about 200 columns, right? So okay, it is storing my employee data and it has around 200 columns. Okay, so in this Excel you can see 200 columns for my employees. Okay, but when the client is making a request for, okay, when the client is making a request, he ideally wants only 2 or 3 columns. Okay, he doesn't want the complete Excel. He just whenever he is using this Excel, right, this particular client just needs 2 or 3 columns for his analysis. Okay, so in that case you don't need to like return back the complete Excel. What you can do is you can just return 2 or 3 columns from your Excel using this S3 select service. Okay, so when they are making a request, they will specify like what all columns or how many rows they want, and you can return the data based on that. Does this make sense? So what is the difference between range, fetch and select? Select is basically you are filtering your data. You can run your SQL query. Okay, not all the operations, but some of the SQL query operations, and you can return particular rows and columns. Range fetch is like you are specifying the number of bytes you wanted to return. Okay. So S3 select, when we are talking about, it is like you can perform SQL operations. Okay, you can do something like filtering. Okay, filtering of your data, filtering of data. Okay, so this is the advantage of using your S3 select. Then another thing which we have is like if you go to management, we have covered lifecycle rules, replication rules. The last thing is inventory configuration. Inventory configuration is something like you want to, like export all your bucket level configurations. Like for example, inventory means what? Repository. What is your repository over here? S3 bucket is your repository over here. So what do you want? So you want to see the configurations for your S3 bucket. Okay. So what are configurations? Like for example, I want to see, it will generate a report. Okay. So when we talk about inventory configuration, what is it going to do? It will basically configuration. What is it going to do? It will give you a kind of a report. Okay, so it will give you a report It could be in a CSV format, PARQ format, or whatever, right? There are 3-4 formats which are supported by it, right? So here it is going to give you a report. And what is this report going to be? Like it will have configuration information about your bucket objects. So you can have, like for example, you can export this report as what is your bucket name, okay, what are your objects, what is your key, object keys, okay, and for each object in your bucket, what is the storage class for it, storage class for it, okay. Then you have what version it is, okay, any metadata information, okay. All this can be generated as a report and exported to your S3 bucket. Does this make sense? So all the configuration, like whether it be versioning information, metadata which is associated to your objects, all that information you can actually export it in the form of a Excel. So here I can create an inventory configuration. I can give it a name test, like whether you want to do it for all the objects or particular objects, whether you want to do it only for the current versions or previous versions as well. Where do you want to store it? Okay, this is like policy which allows it to write to your S3 bucket, the report to your S3 bucket. Do you want it daily or weekly? Output format is ORC, Parquet, or your CSV. And status is like you want it to be enabled. And do you want this report to be encrypted? Encryption we have covered a lot in your video number 3, which talks about the encryption types. And what all information do you want this report to have? Like, do you want your object size information, encryption information, multi-part information, whether it is multi-part or no, right? So all this can be part of your, so all this information you want, like object lock, whether it has object lock or no, e-tags or no, storage class, all this information can be stored in your, all this information can be exported to your bucket, right? So this is basically like you are generating a report for all the configurations of your bucket, right? And it doesn't happen immediately. It takes up to 48 hours. So I had created an inventory configuration in the morning. And if you look at this, like if I go to I had created this as my destination bucket, and you can see it was created in the morning, but it's still taking time, right? It takes up to 48 hours. It may take up to 48 hours to be able to generate this report, right? So this is about your inventory configuration. So why do we use inventory configuration? What is the benefit of exporting this? So for example, you want to just analyze it, in the form of an Excel, you got it, a CSV file, and now you want to see, okay, all those objects which are in your S3 bucket, what is the standard storage class, what is the object size? You just want to analyze the data. It can also be used for batch operations. What is a batch operation? Like for example, we touched upon this topic when we were doing your region replication, right? So what happens when we are doing the cross region replication? It will only replicate the new objects. Okay, if the object is already there, like for example, I'll go to my bucket over here. I'll go to buckets, and here I have a bucket. Okay, test 47466. Now these objects are already underlying, right? They are already there. If I go to my management and I enable my replication over here, I create a replication rule, I say test, and I enable it, okay. And here I'm saying source bucket, and I want it to apply to all the objects. I want all to be copied, and I choose a bucket in this region, like I'm choosing this bucket, okay. I'm choosing this bucket to, for now, enable bucket versioning. For region replication, for replication, your bucket versioning should be enabled on both the buckets, right? And here I will say like, okay, create a new role. Okay, I don't want encryption right now. I don't want storage class to be changed. Everything done, right? I'll click on save. So do you think once I enable the replication, it will also, so what is it saying? Do you want me to create a batch operation job to replicate the existing objects which are lying in your bucket? Okay, so what is happening? Like for example, you have a bucket in which you have like, here is your bucket in which you have like 100 objects lying over here. Okay, and after these objects are lying, you enable your replication, your CRR or SRR, right? And now you have 50 more objects which are added later, right? So once you enabled your CRR in this region, okay, in different region, now the data is getting replicated. You have enabled CRR. Now new 50 objects are added. Once these 50 objects are added, by default only these 50 objects would be moving to this bucket. You understand? These older objects won't be moved automatically. So for moving these objects you can create before you enable CRR, you can actually do a batch operation telling to move all the objects which are lying in this bucket to this bucket, and then once you enable your CRR, these objects would be then replicated asynchronously. Does this make sense? So batch operation is like you want to do a operation in a bulk on multiple objects in your S3 bucket. It could be like you want all the objects to change the storage class for all the objects in your bucket, or you want to enable encryption for all the objects in your bucket, right? Or it can also be like for this purpose, you can create a batch operation, right? So here what is asking me, do you want to enable one-time batch operation job? So it will create a batch operation job for you and it will basically replicate all the objects. So if you do yes, replicate the existing objects, it will create a batch operation job and it will do it. If I don't do it from here, now suppose I didn't do it, okay, like I will create a replication rules, okay. Now for example, I'll create a replication job. Okay, sorry, I have moved out of that console. Okay, buckets, I go back to this, I go to the management, I go to the replication rules. I was creating a replication rule, right? I will say test. Okay, here I will say source bucket is this, prefix all the objects I want to be replicated, okay, and then destination, I'm choosing the bucket in this account. I'll choose this inventory configuration. I want all the objects to be replicated to this bucket, right? And I will say save. So, okay, test 1, 2, 3. I think, did I create this? Okay, 1, 2, 2. I'm creating this replication rule, right? So once I create this replication rule, I have not enabled the batch operation, right? So if I go back to my buckets and if I say inventory config demo, okay, test 4776 test. This is something like, okay, my report got generated, which I had enabled in the morning. Inventory configuration report. You want to see how it looks like? We can just do it 1 minute, huh? So, but you will see like once I have enabled that replication, I won't see existing objects, okay, from that bucket. Okay, so what is going to happen? That was not done, but we can do it using batch operation now. Okay, so I can create a job and I can say, you know, like use this manifest inventory report as in like which already has the information. So what all objects are lying in my bucket, right? And this manifest inventory report has been generated in my this inventory configuration demo bucket, isn't it? So I'll select the path for it. So this is my manifest.json report, right? So I want the operation to be done to all the objects which are lying in this bucket. 1 minute, huh? What happened? Manifest.json. Did I not select JSON file? It should be manifest.json, right? So if you click on view, you would be able to see this file. So manifest.json, you know, right? In the inventory configurations, we had enabled to create a manifest file. So it would be having like your bucket name, your object keys, and versioning is optional. I did not select it, I think, right? So I'll click on next. So what I'm telling is like all the objects in that bucket, I want to be copied to this bucket, right? So copy to my destination bucket. So I am saying like copy all the objects to this bucket, right? And what should be the storage class then for those and all these things I'll do. And I'll say next. Okay, so this is like a job I'm creating, right? So it could be like for either you want, you know, like this is just for copy, like copy all the object to the destination bucket. So which are already lying there. Instead of telling it to create a batch job for you, you are creating it manually. want to replace all the object tags, you want to restore the, or you want to object lock retention policy, you want to specify all these things, you can specify it over here, right? So with this, you can configure your batch job.